with me now is Joseph McGuire. Joseph McGuire is a very good friend of mine and a very clever guy. Joseph, say hello to anyone that's listening.
Hello there. Hello, Lee. Great to be here. Thank you.
And Joseph, just can you give us a bit of your history so for the people that's listening know who you are and what you do?
Okay. What I do particularly, I focus particularly on the ancient Chinese art of Mien Shiang, which literally translates as face reading. The understanding there is that our minds, our faces, reveal a great deal of information about our personality, behavior styles, communication patterns, both in terms of how we process communication and how we then externalize it, stress triggers, stress responses, compatibility with others, health issues and more. So I've been working with and teaching that for the last 35 years at this stage, and I incorporate then body language, micro expressions into that. So I'm reading a lot of what people aren't saying, what's really behind the words. And I work with that. I work with teams in terms of helping them get their communication, internal and external communication, right, or certainly greatly improved. Would sit in on interviews, maybe some negotiations from time to time. Work with individual clients then to help again with their presence, their presentation, their communication, stress issues, and a lot of it is just reading. Accurately reading and helping them to accurately read the body language, the non-verbal communication, both of themselves and others that they're dealing with.
Very good. And obviously in business, these skills in many ways are a must, because obviously a lot of us develop them over time. And obviously there's very subtle distinctions. And I suppose you must get asked this question. I'm assuming this, Joseph, is I would imagine the common question would be, how do I know if somebody's lying to you, especially in negotiation? I would take it probably one step further. How do I know that I can trust the person in front of me and that they're being authentic and honest with me?
Yeah, part of the trap people tend to fall into with that one is they start looking externally and it brings on a state of anxiety, and they start looking for details, looking for confirmation. Is this posture? Is this gesture meaning this? And it creates such a level of anxiety in themselves that they're missing often what's actually going on. So what I tend to dial it back and help people to strengthen their own presence, their own alignment, their own inner attunement, so that firstly they're presenting a much stronger presence, they're communicating non-verbally much more strongly, much more confidently, so that there's almost like a don't mess with me vibe in the first place, without being aggressive about it. Then secondly, that they're so aligned and so in tune with themselves that they're very easily and without stress picking up on the signals correctly.
Very good. And that just gave me sort of a flip in my own head, because I never thought about it that way. I was thinking about it basically judging the other person. I know obviously you teach that stuff, what to look out for, but I never thought about it from my perspective, talking to the other person, because I suppose if I'm in that place of uncertainty, not sure, trying to work it out, then I must be coming across as unauthentic or not sincere. And that would obviously make stress in them anyway.
Yeah, it'll either make stress in them, or depending on their personality, it can basically give them an advantage. If they're a predatory type and they're out there,
yeah,
they will pick up on that, and they will see you as being weak or weaker.
And so do you think that's in many ways what blocks the outcome of negotiations? That in sometimes, obviously, do you find it more predatory style, or do you find it more collaborative style in negotiations?
Oh, it varies. It definitely varies. There's a variety of different styles, but it's learning how to recognize what is the style of the individual or the team, because and even in a team it can be a mix. But learning to recognize the primary style of the people across the table from you, whether that's literally or metaphorically, as well as then recognizing what you're bringing to it, but also learning to be adaptable in your own behavior. That we can often have an idea that we are just this is my personality, this is who I am, and that's not true, that's not accurate. So it's learning to be adaptable, and sometimes we need to be very strong and very forthright in our presentation, and that starts again with the non-verbal dimension, and sometimes we need to be more just more accommodating, more friendly, but we need to be willing and able to adapt according to the appropriate circumstances.
And just something you said there, friendly, accommodating, at the same time aligned, where I think sometimes, and bear in mind, I'm thinking from my perspective and just from conversations I've had from my life, is that sometimes we, portray, as in put ourselves forward as strong, and it can be seen when we're aligned that we're strong, but it can be sometimes seen as arrogance or domineering. How do you balance that when you're working with a client?
That can be a challenge, no question about it, and that's an ongoing learning process for all of us. And that's one of the beautiful things about the event for me, is working with yourself and Bill, the guys I know best from the team, that we're all three of us are deeply committed to continuous learning, and not just learning for ourselves, but learning so that we can help others bring out the best in themselves. Now, that's a slight digression from your question. We obviously can't, and I don't know that we would want to be able to control other people's reactions, but there's you have a background in martial arts, so the whole idea about presenting with clarity and strength, but non-aggressive.
Yeah.
So that you convey an image of confidence, but it's a relaxed confidence. It's not looking for strife. It's not looking for stress. And if you have that, and you have that alignment in yourself, and you've done obviously your preparation in terms of your whatever the detail is, then it makes it easier for you to adapt your behavior, so that whoever's across the table from you can see you as being clear and relaxed, but they're not feeling threatened. And even if they are deeply insecure, you will have the skills, because you're relaxed in yourself, you're confident in yourself, and you're not looking to be a threat or not looking to be threatened. It's easier to set them at ease. But it starts with one's own internal process.
Very good. And with that in mind, because it is a fine line, and I'm thinking in my head how to phrase this question, because I don't want it to. I want it to come across authentic and as a question, because I work with a lot of startups and business owners, and I found that sometimes that societal beliefs can affect and our communication, as in sometimes, like for instance, women in society have this. Some people might refer to them as the weaker sex. Bear in mind, I'm not referring to them as the weaker sex, but some people subscribe to those beliefs. Not just men, but women themselves subscribe to them. So how do you, or is it possible to sidestep those societal beliefs? Because obviously we're playing on a level playing field as long as we accept we're playing on a level playing field. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key word that comes to mind here is respect.
Yeah.
That's self-respect and respect, and not just feeling respect, but demonstrating respect for whoever we meet, whether they be male, female, young, old, whatever.
Yeah.
And being willing to engage with them and to meet them where they're at. Not as far as societal beliefs impact so deep, we've had so many discussions on this. Societal beliefs impact so deeply and on so many levels. But as far as humanly possible, being again self-aligned, having that degree of self-respect, self-confidence, clarity about oneself and what one's intention is for the particular negotiating the meeting, but demonstrating respect in one's presence, one's actions, one's words to that other person or the other people, and being consistent with that.
And adding on to that is that sometimes you work with clients that are very good with, say, their product. They know what it is, but they lack that confidence because let's say I've got a chap I'm working with at the minute, absolutely phenomenal guy, but what some might say is he's not a people person, as in when he mixes, he's well able to do it because he's well able to talk about it, but he just hasn't got, let's say, the people's skills. Is there anything you do in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. And God knows I had to learn a lot of that myself. because when I started doing business networking myself, I was coming from a background of being a holistic therapist, and I didn't see myself as a business person. So when I was meeting people in a straight business context, as it were, I felt like a complete fish out of water. So I had to learn how to engage with people in a whole different way. And again, it comes back to learning to be aligned with oneself, and obviously one can expand on that, and there's detail and preparation goes into that. But it's being willing to meet people, and a networking, negotiation. Basically, it still boils down to being willing to have a conversation, and we're all capable of having a conversation. The question then is, if we're willing to have a conversation, do we just seek to be understood, or do we want to understand as well? And that's part of what I help with people with, is to recognize how the people they're talking to actually process information. And people's people's visual presentation, their facial features, etc., provides a lot of information about how people actually process information. So whether we speak quickly, slowly, whether we speak in a more factual tone, a more general tone, all of that's visible in people's features. So we can adapt, and we have to adapt. Have to be willing to adapt our presentation style, the wording, to meet the needs of the people across from us, if we want to not just succeed in that business transaction, but to actually build relationship.
You and I have had loads of different chats on different things, and it does come back, I suppose, because in many ways we can be guilty, correct me if I'm wrong, guilty of being in our own heads, in our own presence, and that alignment you're on about is very important to allow us to communicate from an authentic place. On the night, what do you envisage, I think, you're going to be talking about, and what insights do you think you'll be sharing?
Yeah, you're so right there that so often we are, and I include myself in that at times, absolutely. We are so often in our own heads, and we're not seeing what's actually going on for the people around us, whether that be negotiation, clients, sales, etc. And it's helping. What I'm about, and what I'm going to be focusing on that evening is, again, that idea of alignment. I talked about the self-awareness, self-presence, the relaxation, and so that we're presenting again with that relaxed, confident clarity, that willingness to meet other people. Particular tips in terms of reading other people, so that we're making that connection very strongly, so that we're both benefiting.
Very good. And we're doing a panel discussion afterwards, and what we're looking to do on that as well is to have people obviously ask the questions. Obviously, you're not in a rush to get away after the event, Joseph.
No.
So obviously some of us will still be around after the event, and a few of us will be there. I would imagine all will be there before it even starts. So it's... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's all part of the networking, the engagement, the willingness to be present. It's not just, you're not just showing up for the gig and then I'm the superstar, I have to go off again. That's not, we're all of us about building relationship. Definitely. And that's prior to the event, that's during the event, that's after the event. It's all part of it.
If you were recently on TVAM only about a week ago.
It's, to be honest, I've been on TV before. To me, it's a very relaxed situation, as long as you don't knock over the furniture, kind of thing. Really, but I knew what to expect, and it was just hopefully giving people a few very simple pointers, things to watch out for. And unfortunately, politicians are particularly at a high level are trained in body language, so they're doing as much as they can to show as little as possible.
Gotcha. And when you take somebody like Trump, and whether you like him, whether you hate him, that isn't the point of the question. But the point of the question, obviously, he seems to be a bit of a maverick. Is there any distinctions or differences between his communication style and other people's, as in general politicians? The reason I'm asking, a friend of mine, Lisa Morgan, she's got a book coming out soon about Trump. And she's talking about his communication style, as in his verbal communication style, where you would be more on the non-verbal. So is there any distinctions or differences that he has that serve him as opposed to what other politicians are doing?
Yeah, one thing that's very, very clear, and it's not just from his nonverbal communication. He's recognized that by and large, most people, even at a very high level of success in business or politics, lack confidence. And he's willing to, I mean, he stated it very openly, he will look for the weakness and he will go straight at it and push and push and push until he gets what he wants. In terms of his presentation, a lot of the non-verbal stuff, you see the big waving of the hands, the big wide gestures. It's basically telling people he's the alpha male, but it's also deflecting from the fact that more often than not he's saying nothing of substance.
Yeah.
So the hands are waving as a distraction, almost like a magician will do, misdirection.
Yeah.
His facial expressions are very interesting because so often they're displaying absolute contempt.
Very good. So there's a mismatch.
Well, it's very deliberate. It's very, no pun intended, in your face. But enough people have bought it to enable him to be where he is.
And from your experience, what do you think's enabled him to do that, with so many people have sort of, let's use the word, bought into it? How do you think he's making them feel inside? Obviously, you'd imagine he's giving them some form of safety or security.
Well, obviously, he has sold. I mean, he's a salesman. That's the first thing. He has sold the idea or the reality that people have been let down by politicians over a long period of time. And obviously, people in Middle America, rural America, which by and large is his heartland, have experienced huge societal changes where lack of employment, etc., businesses closing, towns closing. So he recognized there was a market there, and he sold the message that you can trust me. I'm not a politician. Drain the swamp, drain the swamp. Very, very simple slogans. And he's pushed the message very effectively because he has the sales skill. Yeah.
I could talk to you all day, Joseph. So where can people get in contact with you if they need to? Where can they find out more about you?
Well, I tend to be pretty active on LinkedIn. Joseph McGuire, that's McGuire. My website is clearsightcommunications.com. That's all one word. But LinkedIn or Clearsight Communications.
Very good. Yep. And I look forward to being with you on the night, my friend, and really
absolutely, Lee.
The event. And I'm so privileged that you're coming down, sir.
Well, I'm very honored. Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.